So folks, I had a question. I had two questions for you. The first question is, can you tell me what you're learning from Confucius? I would love to hear what everybody is learning from Confucius. I'm not that familiar with Confucius. Please, I would really appreciate, you're sharing what you're learning from Confucius. We're going to start with James. James.
Well, I feel like I'm learning a lot about the Confucian system of manners and rituals, and his value system, which includes benevolence, family manners, and the family relationships, and including filial. I think based in filial piety. I see it as one system, even though there's different words, and then and sort of as a very important life philosophical system. I would another system I've studied is Stoicism. So it's not anything like Stoicism, but I think it's some of the ideas are equally pertinent to modern life. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next up is going to be Kevin. Kevin, what are you learning about Confucius?
Hey, thank you, Shankar. I'm going to share the first one. Actually, in chapter 1, I'm trying to use Chinese for 学而时习之，不亦乐乎？有朋自远方来，不亦乐乎？人不知而不慙，不亦君子乎？ First to learn and then have a chance to practice. So what you learn, it's pleasure. It's like here. Like Swanka, you always see we learn each other, so share. That's one thing I'm listening, different, not just from the speaker, a great book, or from individual thought. How beautiful. Share. And the second one is if you have friend or followers come to you, visit you, what's joyful? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Next up is going to be Brian and Penny, followed by Joe.
So I'd see when you asked that, the two words that popped into my head were humanity and propriety, and then that clicked with me. Those just happen to be keywords in Confucianism, and the Ren and Li. But the one that strikes me is that how the two are fused. There's humanity in the propriety and propriety in humanity. That's one thing. So that's, I guess, is the big thing. The other thing is just the way the book is laid out. He's in conversations, he's in dialogue with his students. And what the answers he gives, there's questions from the students and he gives answers. The answers he gives are tailored to the students. So you don't, it's not strict rules. It's how how humanity and propriety would manifest itself in the present circumstance for the benefit of this student. And the occasion that's prompted that observation from Confucius is the question that the student asked.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. Penny, would you like to add what you're getting from Confucius?
Well, I would say part of it is just, of course, learning a lot more about the history of that period in time as you read. And, Jason explains especially some of the things behind the questions and who the people are and the rich, the different things that are going on. And then I would say vis-a-vis the viewpoint of the Confucians, I think that, I would just say, it seems to be his dominant theme is really the character of a person. He feels that's the most important, and he does have some things, some approaches like, the rituals and the propriety are ways to improve your character. But basically, he is feeling that, I mean, that's the most important thing about anybody, not whether you know a lot or you come from a wealthy family or the experiences you've had, but that you know how to act.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Penny. Next up is Joe, followed by Allison. Joe.
So, you know, I'll echo what everybody else has said up to this point. For sure, is that one of the things that I found is that in the differences between book 1 and 2 and 3. So book 3 is really, really, really focused on ritual, which is actually kind of forced us into understanding the history and the point of the ritual. So that's been a little bit more of a challenge, I got to be honest. Whereas I'm looking back at some of my notes, and you know, you can really see the value of virtues. Like I'm even seeing the you know, I have some notes here that talks about in chapter 2 the duty, the role of duty, your duty ethics, role ethics to a certain degree, the importance of honesty in book 2 chapter 10. You know, that as I go through these things, you can see almost Stoic type of principles, but you can see Confucius talking about things like justice and telling the truth, and the conversations that he's having with his students is actually what is interesting. So that this chapter to me is less of a conversation, which makes it a little bit more challenging. So that if I, you know, if I'd gone back in time, I'd probably studied the rituals a little bit more in preparation for book 3, because book 1 and 2 I thought were very clear with the dialogue that he had with his students, and even certain things when it comes to how do we make our judgments of others. And as Penny had said, I mean, and repeatedly here, I have, you know, the maintaining of one's character, and there are a lot of moral standards, you know, especially looking in 1.8, 1.7. So, yeah, I mean, I think that this chapter is a little bit unique, and it's this book 3 is a little bit unique. But that's what I'm taking from it. It's, you see a lot of the ethical principles and how he, and what scenarios when he's conversing with his students, you know, what they should be, you know, doing under what conditions, what a good person ought to do in a certain situation. So yeah, I'll admit book 3 is a little challenging.
Now, I can sympathize with the difficulty of going through rituals. I'm studying the Old Testament, and I just got done through parts of Leviticus. So that as I understand the complexity of having to deal with, you know, kind of understand the rituals. Thank you, Joe. Next up is Allison, followed by Brian. Allison.
So I teach ESL kids, and the majority of them are from China. So I feel like I wanted to study this so I could understand their culture more. And I feel like it's, especially the concepts of ritual and filial piety really makes sense to me when I see because these kids have this amazing work ethic, and they're so respectful, far more so than the children who were born here. I mean, it's mind-boggling, the difference. And I actually have quoted some of this to my class to try to get the other kids to work a little harder. And there was one point when I felt some children were being disrespectful. So this is weird, but I picked up the phone, I pretended to call Thoreau, and I said, I told them, I was like, unless you're going to go to Walden's Pond and be in the woods alone, you have to think about how your actions affect others. So then I pretended to call Confucius, and then I like quoted something from here, and so it was hilarious because half the class was very confused. The other class was like, yes, that's exactly how you should do it. So I think it's great. I just feel like it's like I see all of this and it's giving me this background that just makes everything make sense. So I'm very happy.
That's quite a phone a friend lifeline, being
Yeah.
able to call these folks. Thank you. Next up is Brian.
Okay, I want to make sure that before we end the discussion, we give recognition to Jason and Kevin and Suki. They are in this.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it this way. Instead of the words, I want to ask them a question.
Okay.
From this one, and I will give you a chance to do this, a little later, because I want to keep on. Because I want to ask this question to these three folks, because in some ways they have a much larger perspective. They're familiar. So the question for Jason, Suki, and Kevin is: look at the American culture today. Look at Confucius. You're familiar with both. You're intimately familiar with both. What do you think Confucius has to offer the American culture today? Many people here kind of have talked about it a little bit here, a little bit there, but you have a much greater perspective on this. So whoever wants to start, Jason, Suki, or Kevin. Kevin, go ahead.
I'm going to steal Suki's just now mentioned that today, she said normally even from book, we don't say you are wrong. I'm correct. Follow me. They don't say that. Give you open question or something, give you the comparison. Oh, okay. When you open a paper, okay, here's page 1, here's page 2. It's like that way. It's very open-minded. I would say use the English way. We don't forget. We are dilemma or trilemma or false binary. We normally false. I'm right, you are wrong. Especially I'm rich, you listen to me. I hire you for reasons, and so on. That's I'm going to follow later. She just stole Suki's idea first. Later, another two speak.
Wonderful, thank you, Kevin. Suki, what do you think?
My inspiration is work with the difficult relationship first, which is with your parents, which is with your siblings. Because I feel like in here, if you go to a when you go to therapy, they always say a lot of the suffering actually is from your parents or from your sibling when you grow up. But in Confucius say, you have to practice the most difficult relationship in order to be a even better person in a bigger society or organization. So I think here, it's like, can I speak to my parents or speak to my loved ones at home with the same patience, same respect? Because sometimes we treat our inner circle person with show our worst part of our personality instead of our clients. So we don't show the same loving compassion to our loved ones compared to our business partner or other more transactional relationship. So that's my new way to see. Always work with your difficult relationship.
Yes, Suki, that's a profound point. Because actually, even epistemologically, even kind of learning how to deal with human beings, if you're not going to deal well with human beings that you're dealing with all the time, you're not going to be able to deal with human beings. So I think kind of starting with that as a family and, working on that, getting that right, as shaping your other relationships. I think that's a very profound point. And definitely I can see that, that's a core way in which kind of Confucian morality, I see that as being an integral part of the Confucian morality, of this filial piety as being the foundation from which you grow out. So just fantastic a profound point. Thank you. Jason, what do you think? What has Confucius, what can Confucius offer the modern American culture?
I would say hate-love relationship. Okay, so put this way, I disagree. Oh, first, I agree with Suki about the relationship. Okay, I think that's provide very thing that I see in the Western world. People pay less things on the relationship. So which is similar to Stoic. So today, a lot of Stoicism has been used for the therapy purpose, family consulting, relationship consulting. I see Confucius has been used this way. I see I thank you for this project. I have reread the Confucius in the different eye. And I really respect not Confucius' teaching. I like his attitude. Okay, so I think I just like to tell a lot of people's understanding about the analects is through Neo-Confucius, which is Zhu Xi, which is 1,500 years after Confucius. So what I'm translated is based on study what later Confucian scholar talk. I try to go through the original text, bring up the person, this guy, Confucius. So that's what I'm doing this way. And then I find out I may disagree a lot of his teaching, but his personality, 70 years old, still active, and the attitude through everything, he has his own opinion. I hope everyone can see this part as a person, as a role model. Personally, I don't think Confucius should be teaching for the kids because you lost your individuality. You lost your power to pursue the truth. Okay, so that's my view. But I think Confucius is very important for the people much older, being a manager or working for the government. But I'm against the Confucian's government system. But I think as an individual training, the legislator, administrator, president should have idea of Confucius. So turn out, traditionally, China has to do it the wrong way because they want the people become Confucianism and the government doing legalism. But I want is reverse. We are legalists and the government should be Confucianism. I think that's the thing I want to see. In another way, I don't want kids is Confucianism and the parents is tiger mom or tiger dad. I want the kids is individualism and I want to reverse, okay, the way. So I want the parent be Confucius as himself, not as a Confucian to teach your kids. So I think that's the way that's what one of my effort, I want to reverse this direction in Western world, also in the Asia. So.
Oh, that's, Jason, that is an amazing point. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me go ahead and I want to ask you a couple more questions here. I too don't like the resultant ideas in the systems.
I think we have the same component, I think.
Yes, because I do prize the individualism. So like Taoism goes to my heart. Confucianism is that I have to learn in order to understand the world, the Chinese way of doing things. But there is another point that you made, which is, I think, also critical, that when you look at somebody like Confucius, his attitude, the way in which his mind works is actually really fascinating. And that's something that you can learn something from. You said you like his attitude, but not his ideas. In some ways, unfortunately, what ends up happening is that for most people who come after them just take their ideas and completely lose their way of thinking. So can you talk a little bit about the attitude, the person of Confucius? Keep aside the ideas. What kind of attitude is displayed in the character of Confucius?
Well, I think I talk about this on the book too at the beginning when Confucius talk about his life, right? I really admire he has some idea he's pursuing, and he never been successful until 50 years old. Then he got the job. He do it according to his disciple. He did great in 3 months. Okay, I don't know if it's true or not true, but his disciple said that. At 3 years or 4 years, he lost his job and get fired. Okay. And the time he's 54 years old. And you probably the time you can sit home and collect social security money and enjoy your life. But he didn't. He collect a lot of people, travel around China, the known world, try to promote his idea. Many times he is in danger. Okay. And he still do it. Okay. All the way. So I don't like his idea looking backward, blah, 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 but that's just personal, okay? So you just same as you can criticize my idea of something, but his attitude is really, people should learn. So I think it's not only in American, people should know this person as a great figure, and also in Asia, when people kind of reading, claim themselves of Confucius, but not really know him, I think that's a loss.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Next up is Bruce, followed by Kevin. Bruce.
Hi, thank you. After I put my exclamation mark up, Jason started to answer this, but I'm thinking of the reverse. Instead of asking Jason and Kevin and Suki about what the Western world could learn from Confucius, I'm wondering if Confucius came to visit the modern West, what would he learn? And what would he take away?
Jason, would you like to?
I'm not sure that's a valid question, sure answer, because we don't know, when Confucius come here and just take as a personality, I don't think he will look backward. Okay, he has no choice but look backward, right? Because he doesn't know other world. Only thing he know is ancient time. So first, I don't think he will be that conservative. And during that time, I don't think we should consider him as conservative. Actually, he is trying to change the social order. He started to recognize the people without blue blood, the noble blood, should be treated as a nobleman, so-called 君子. So I don't think he will criticize American too much, okay, in the Western world, and he probably will enjoy a lot of new technology for example, he talked about music, but he probably will put a stop sign on a lot of abuse. For example, over drinking, too much time on social media, kind of too much indulgence. So that's the only thing I can feel. But of course, I don't know. Probably he run for president and he get the job. We don't know.
Thank you. Kevin, you had comments about Confucianism and his attitude as a person.
Yeah, I'm going to follow Bruce, quickly about. I remember now about the 因材施教. Basically, teach students basically different ability, different age. They're going to ask different questions and educate them grow together. That's first. Second, about the culture. If Confucius now, if he only Swenka and Confucius and me, he going to 3 people. He going to learn from us, from each of you. Swenka from Kevin learning, even of course American. So the Chinese code 三人行必有我师也. 3 people for sure. One person is my teacher. That's why, you know, when today we learned he visited one great temple, he asked everything. Even he know it, we assume you are a master, you are a sage, but he still asks. Back to, by the way, for you guys, this is back to Swanka, you back to your question is how do American learn it? Check book 2, governing. I'm going to mention 3. First, the 2:8 about the Sena. So your imagine we are family. The first from kids to your parents, your facial expression, smiling or none, or did you see anything? That's very difficult. It's called Sena. Basically, your facial expression is important. That's showing you something, your relationship. By the way, about relationship, do you remember you invite one doctor? I asked a question, I guess, you know, what's the good for the house to live longer? How is this relationship, especially family or close? Another one I'm going to use, chapter 2:11. Review what you have learned, acquire new knowledge. You can be a teacher. 温故而知新, learn the old one. Here's we normally are even now. We focus now, present. We ignore the past. However, past is also have something. Why Confucius, also others, wisdom, they return to visit those rituals, something. Of course, something makes sense. However, when we get older, we notify something, okay. And another is about 学而不思则罔，思而不学则殆, about learning and thinking. So we need both. Normally, if we use Western, we use learning only, or thinking only, maybe more. Why not both or all about? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next up is James, followed by Joe. James.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to fill in one part that I really like. He talks about when he expresses his propriety and benevolence. He seems to want his students to do well. In other words, he's a teacher, and he understands some of the sayings are about when people are qualified to be, how they know they're qualified to be teachers, when they can see themselves becoming teachers. And he always wants to do his students to do what he talks about. At one point, he talks about how to get rich, how to not get rich, but how to get a job, right? So in other words, his students, I think he sees his students as future government contractors. These are people that will be able to work for other people. They'll be able to work for the nobles, or he has people that work for nobles, but he could also have students that will become government employees. And he says, how do you keep a job? And the way to keep a job is don't talk over other people. Don't always think about things that are important. Always think about the projects that are being done and contribute to those projects. How they can be done better. So in other words, contribute in a group, contribute to the group project, contribute to the benefit of all, and that's benevolence. And contribute to the benefit of all, contribute to and don't insert yourself above the others who are your equals. So I get this idea in Chinese wisdom, that there was this idea that if you were working for the Son of Heaven, so to speak, you would want to not overstep yourself, but you would want to contribute to the conversation, and that was his idea of good government. So I think we can learn from that. I think to me, it seems to me that's like a contractor in a corporation. That's what you do when you're a contractor in a corporation. You go in there and you provide solutions to them without for the profit of the corporation, without overstepping overstepping your authority. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. I mean, though, like I have all kinds of issues with his kind of particular ideas that he has, I really love the entire format of him talking to all these students, him sizing up all the students. This student is like this. So he's very practical in terms of with the conversation format of saying, okay, who is this person I'm talking to? And he talks at that level for that person. So I like that aspect of it. That's one of my favorite aspects of the kind of the structure of these Analects, of these conversations, which are tailored for individual people. Next up is Joe, followed by Suki. Joe.
I kind of forget what I was actually going to say. I got caught up in listening. So I mean,
No problem.
I do want to thank Jason and everybody at some.
We'll come to that. Let's go to Suki. Suki, go ahead.
I want to respond to Bruce's question. I think one thing is Confucius might learn the concept of boundary, because that's something not exists in that time, because he encouraged we respect our parents and the siblings. So sometimes we might be over involved in some toxic relationship dynamics. So maybe that's something he can learn from family therapy, or that kind of original family, that kind of, because Confucius didn't grow with his own father. So he was not traumatized by his own father, And second, Confucius is a hardcore entrepreneur. So he will excitedly embrace the entrepreneurship, that kind of American spirit. So I think he will be like a mentor for a lot of young incubator or something. And I also think he will embrace all the technology. So he will use all the social media, all these stuff to do like knowledge, economic, that kind of stuff. And also he also has a saying like, don't be afraid. If people don't know you, I won't get angry. So I think he can handle all kinds of bitter comments under his social media platform. So he will thrive. Thank you.
I can imagine TikToks by him. So it's going to be really, really powerful. He's able to put things just so. All right, folks. So the next thing I want to do is what Jason has been doing, what Kevin has been doing, what Suki has been doing is just amazing. And it's both ways. It's like, firstly, I'm tremendously grateful for all these folks sharing. And this is happening, like, for example, Yogeshwar does this for Gita. People who really get something, like my friends, and it's not just cultural, it's people who know something, know something very deeply. Like my friends, Rupali or Sherry, who know Louis Sullivan, sharing all of that. Sharing all of that. Tinder, oh, that's very interesting. So really appreciate that. So if anybody wants to, I know I asked Brian to hold off on this, but Brian, go ahead, please.
I would echo what you said. You started out at the beginning, what were we getting out of it? And I would just say I would be getting nothing out of it without Jason and Kevin and Suki. So, and plus all the others, I get comment that I benefit from everyone's comments, but I want to acknowledge, I'm very grateful for their privileged position in this conversation, exactly the way that Shrikant put it.
Thank you. Next up is Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I too, I want to echo what you had said and express my gratitude as well to Suki, Kevin, and Jason, for all the time that they put in. I'm continually amazed about how much the depth of the knowledge that they have and their willingness to come here and share it with us each week. It really is like, it's like getting a master's level course and from somebody for free. So I think that this is really remarkable. And I also want to thank Penny and James for reading all the time. That they're always there as well.
I want to add one thing. See, like I know this for Gita, for example. I can read Sanskrit. I'm familiar with that culture. And one of the results, one of the things, and I'm sure Yogeshwar also feels the same way, is that it's a culture. It's the culture that you grew up with, something that you're familiar with, and you're sharing what this culture has with a group of people who are appreciative. So I think everybody who is participating here is adding, significant amount of value by your interest. Because what happens is that if you really care about some ideas like Taoism or Confucianism or Indian philosophy or any ideas, it is a pleasure to actually share them. And in the process of doing that, you get a new perspective on them because other people are seeing it through fresh eyes, and you go back and forth and you actually end up learning a lot more. And that's why that's what I'm getting most from the Bhagavad Gita and things. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment, Jason or Suki or Kevin, if you would like to talk about what you're getting from these meetups, we'd appreciate that.
Sorry, I probably need to leave in about
Sure.
minutes. So I think I just like to comment on James talked about like the getting a job. Okay, so Confucius, all the disciples, they want to, I think the only purpose, I should say only purpose, is getting a job. So put this way, they are disciples not in the Jesus and his 12 disciples, is in the sense of the party leader take their party members to get a job. I think that's my understanding on the whole book. And second comment is about Joe talk about is a challenge on book 3. I just have to say it's a challenge to translate book 3 because a lot of ritual and a lot of historical background. It's a challenge. And back to Srinkan's question about what do I get, I don't have to mention anymore because it's a lot. And I always value the fresh, raw reaction as valuable as a scholar's research because that reflect two different point of view. That's a very Taoism idea, back to the nature, the fresh eye, naked eye, look at that would be as valuable as from the scholar's eye. So I really appreciate everybody's.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. So folks, if I want to tell you about 2 meetups coming up, 2 new series that we are starting, which are quite incredible. The first one is we are looking at Carl Jung. And we are starting with what I think is his deepest work and by far my favorite work of his. This is part of Red Book. It's called The 7 Sermons to the Dead. It's also one of his shortest works. You can listen to it in about 40 minutes. You can read it in about 40 minutes. And it basically shows his metaphysics, his approach to psyche in a bird's eye view. So it's the most incredible thing that we are starting that series on Thursday, this Thursday. We've got about 5 different Jungians, Jungian scholars, Jungian psychoanalysts who will be there, and they will be talking about what they understand from this. We're just going to cover, it's 7 sermons. We're going to cover the first sermon. It's only like 13 minutes, 15 minutes reading, but very, very deep. There are a number of people who have run other meetups, like Roger and Victor and Phil, who are also big into Jung, who will be there, who will be commenting too. So it's going to be an incredible set of people. And we'll actually be able to see that there is a tremendous influence of the Indian ideas on Jung. And you can see that most clearly in that work. So that's going to be Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then on Sunday, we are starting a monthly series by this guy called Brian. You may not have heard of him, but Brian and Evanique are going to do a series on the divine feminine. And that's going to be, that's something, it's like yin yang, the Western culture is mostly yang culture and less focus on yin. That has not always been the case. This is a way of looking at the yin part of the divine in not just Western history, but across cultures. So I'm really, really excited about the series that's starting this Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you guys could make it to some of these. So, and Joe, thank you very much. Joe, go ahead.
The Asian Philosophies meetup.
Yes, go ahead.
That is this Saturday. Actually,
Saturday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
And it's going to be, Jason, do you want to say what it is? You're on mute, Jason.
This Saturday is talking about the histories, the historiography. Okay, so basics is the philosophy of history, and Chinese philosophy of history is very different. So that's just one of the subject. I don't know, probably Brian who asked about the unity and disunity. That's one of the concept here. And the next week we were going to, today we discuss about the temple of Confucius. That's the religious Tao. So most of the people already studied the philosophical Tao, but how does the philosophical Tao become the religious Tao? That's another big question. Whatever you see, and you will see the funny thing is Hegel make a huge mistake by confusing two and make a common on it.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Joe.
No
Really
problem.
appreciate you running these meetups. Just thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Everybody have a good night.